what killed Kenya's parliament and what can be done to bring it back to life. Because it seems the 13th parliament, that is, to be dead on arrival. So 2 weeks ago in Narok, President William Ruto sent out a warning to Parliament, those who are associated with the Kenya Kwanza side, telling them ahead of the finance bill making its way to Finance Bill 20 to the floor of the House for debate and reading, that they should fully support it. And anyone who has or holds a contrary opinion will face consequences. In fact, the deputy, you remember it, he said those members of parliament should not expect barabara kwao. So this is what the president said 2 weeks ago in Narok.
Kila mjumbe ajulikane amefanya kazi gani ama amepiga kura upande gani. Mimi nakubaliana ya kwamba kila mjumbe ajulikane amepiga kura wapi. Mimi nangojea mbunge mwenye anaenda kupiga kura ati kupinga mpango ya serikali kuwapatia hawa vijana ambao waliwapigia kura ati ajira. I am waiting for the members of parliament who will go and vote against the plan to give these young people, majority of them, they are voters. I am waiting for them to go and vote against the employment of these young people. I am waiting for members of parliament to go and vote against housing that would give these people a chance to own a decent home with 5% mortgage when you yourself as a leader is getting a mortgage because of the taxes paid by the people of Kenya of 3%.
And I believe the panelists did hear, or at least got the feedback from what the president said 2 weeks ago. And this was a warning, just basically telling the members of parliament, especially of Kenya Kwanza, to toe the line. And just over the weekend, telling those who are in Azimio, or at least associated to Azimio, not to be intimidated and vote as they feel. And that is, of course, to the words of the president, to support the Finance Bill 2023. So we have the Busia Senator, Okiya Omtata, who is in the building right now. And in fact, he is one who has challenged the finance bill in court, being the public litigator. It hasn't stopped even after he became senator. And as we mic him and bring him here, I'd just like to get a quick round of comments. And I'll start with you, Nerima, from what the president said, and even the deputy president, as we go around the panel.
Was intimidating, obviously, because he did not just say it once, he said it several times.
Yes.
And so a lot of members are thinking about the development in their constituencies. So to say that there will be no roads, roads are important to specifically African leaders because they are visible. So that when people are passing, they're like, hii ni barabara wenye nani aliweka. So for you, it's a campaign as well. So I think that this particular government has started doing it rather early in terms of mobilizing and pushing for that mobilization. Thinking that at the beginning of their term, they were very cocky and confident because they felt that they had the largest numbers. Yeah. But you can see how difficult it has been in terms of even convincing representatives to push this particular bill, but not only through convincing, they are now doing it by force. So basically saying that if you disagree to go with us, then we will ostracize you from the get-go. So it's interesting that it's coming from the president, because if anyone knows what being ostracized looks like, it is him. So for him to now come around and say, I will do exactly what happened to me, to you, shows you that, you know, sometimes we do forget where we've come from. Right. And we find ourselves also being the oppressor, and when we've come from a period of actually being oppressed by our previous administration.
And it seems like he's revisiting what was revisited in the previous regime. To Eric Theuri, as now Senator makes his way to his sitting position, someone might say, guys, come on, it's a game of numbers, it's politics, this is how the game is played. You're probably a bit naive if you were to expect any different. Not to say that it's right or wrong, but siasa ni siasa, hivyo ndio inachezwa. even in lobbying, abroad or wherever else, people lobby the members of parliament, the policy makers around these issues to support one way or another. It happens world over. So is it anything wrong with this parliament that's why we're calling it dead on arrival? Is this an inaccurate premise?
I think the comments by the president, maybe in the manner in which they were made, and the context in which they were made, are wrong. But and I say this because we have a big problem because our political parties lack ideology. And so that when members of parliament in other developed democracies are being rallied again to support a party position, then they are ideally within the same thinking, ideological thinking.
Right.
Unless perhaps then it is those two cases, and you'll find that even in countries such as the US, the UK, that particular parties, and even in Germany, particular parties have a certain ideology. And so you would find that even the rescue packages that are developed by the Republican government would be radically different from a rescue package developed by democratic government, because they think in certain ideological trenches that are well defined, and that's how you look at it in the context of Kenya, because in Kenya you are being told that unless you support the government, then political goodies will not come to you. And so our system is a system of political patronage.
Yeah.
That you support us, then you get goodies. You get to sit on the table, so to speak, where the national cake is being divided. And that's where we have a big problem. But otherwise, in properly established democracies, you would find that the president, being the leader of a political party, then has to rally his political troops to support the political agenda that he has, and that is normal. But then the motivation is not that if you don't, you will not get certain goodies. It is actually because there is a high level of party loyalty, a high level of the members themselves believing in the ideology of the party, and so they don't find it difficult to defend the proposals that the government has put in place.
Yeah.
I think we are experiencing a situation where the government has come up with certain proposals that can only be supported through blind party loyalty. That if you apply reason or thinking to the proposals that have been there, it only leads you to one inevitable conclusion, that you would reject the proposals that have been put by the government.
Yeah.
And to that extent then, it is no longer about persuasion in terms of this is the ideology of the party. And you must remember this, that this is a party that rode into power on the promise that it will look after the downtrodden, the so-called hustlers. And there's a radical departure from that manifesto. So that the manifesto, the promise that the people of Kenya have with this government has been violated.
Yeah.
Now, to that extent, then, as a member of parliament of that party, you have to reject that, because you were elected to deliver a completely different promise from the one that you are delivering. So the only way that you can be made to deliver on on a promise which you did not give to the electorate, or rather to cheat your electorate, is to be threatened.